The Galactic Council's big mistake. The Galactic Council, a powerful group of alien leaders, had ruled the galaxy for centuries. They controlled trade, resources, and even the movements of different planets. Most species feared them, knowing that disobedience could lead to harsh punishments. But there was one planet that had recently caught the Council's attention: Earth. Earth had always been a small player in the galaxy. The humans had only recently started exploring space, and the Galactic Council didn't see them as a threat. But that was about to change. Earth had been growing stronger, advancing rapidly in technology and expanding its influence in space. The humans were curious, intelligent, and determined, traits that made them dangerous in the eyes of the Council. The Council members, made up of various alien species, gathered in their grand chamber. The room was large, with towering pillars and a massive table in the center. Each council member took their seat, their expressions serious. The meeting was called because they had to make a decision about Earth. "The humans are becoming too powerful," said Lord Varnak, a tall reptilian alien with scales that shimmered in the dim light. His voice was deep and commanding. "If we do not act now, they could disrupt the balance of power in the galaxy." Other council members nodded in agreement. They had watched Earth closely, seeing how quickly humans adapted and how fiercely they defended their planet. The Council was used to being in control, and the thought of a small planet like Earth challenging them was unacceptable. Lady Tessara, a wise and ancient alien with eyes that glowed a soft blue, spoke up. "We must impose strict sanctions on Earth, cut off their trade routes, block their access to resources, and isolate them from the rest of the galaxy. This will weaken them and remind them of their place." The suggestion was met with approval. The Council believed that by limiting Earth's resources, they could slow down the humans' progress and keep them in check. The idea was simple: make Earth dependent on the Council, and they would never rise to power. But not everyone agreed. In the corner of the room sat Ambassador Ralak, a younger member of the Council who had always been curious about humans. He had visited Earth once and was impressed by their resilience and ingenuity. He knew that humans were not like other species. They didn't give up easily. "Are we certain this is the right approach?" Ambassador Ralak asked, his voice cautious. "The humans are different. They adapt quickly. If we push them too hard, they might fight back." Lord Varnak scoffed at the idea. "Fight back? Against us? The Galactic Council is the most powerful force in the galaxy. No planet has ever dared to challenge our authority, especially not one as insignificant as Earth." The room filled with murmurs of agreement. The Council was confident in their power, too confident to see the potential danger. They believed that humans, like all other species before them, would bow down to the Council's will. The vote was called, and the decision was unanimous. Earth would face strict sanctions. The Council would cut off all trade with the planet, block their access to important resources, and isolate them from other planets. It was a plan they had used many times before with great success. To the Council, Earth was just another planet that needed to be reminded of its place in the galaxy. As the meeting ended, the Council members left the chamber, satisfied with their decision. They believed they had made the right choice, one that would ensure the stability of the galaxy. But they had made a big mistake. What the Council didn't realize was that Earth was not like the other planets they had dealt with. Humans were different. They were stubborn, creative, and fiercely independent. Instead of breaking under pressure, humans thrived in challenging situations. The Council's sanctions would not weaken Earth as they expected. Instead, it would ignite a fire within the humans, a fire that would soon burn across the galaxy. Ambassador Ralak remained in the chamber after everyone else had left. He couldn't shake the feeling that the Council was underestimating the humans. He had seen their strength, their determination. He knew that Earth would not take this lightly, but it was too late. The decision had been made. All he could do now was watch and wait. As Ralak stared out of the chamber's large window, looking at the stars beyond, he wondered what the humans would do next. He had a feeling that the Council's big mistake was about to lead to something none of them could have ever imagined: Earth's anger. Ignites. Earth was always a planet full of surprises. From the moment humans learned to walk upright, they had faced challenges with courage and determination. They had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and natural disasters. Every time they were knocked down, they got back up, stronger than before. So when the Galactic Council imposed harsh sanctions on Earth, thinking it would break their spirit, they were in for a rude awakening. The news of the Galactic Council's decision spread like wildfire. It started with a few whispers in the halls of power, then quickly reached every corner of the globe. The United Earth Government, which had been striving to unite all nations under one banner, called an emergency meeting. Leaders from every country gathered in a massive underground bunker hidden deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. The room was filled with tension, the air thick with anger and frustration. President Eleanor Carter, a strong and wise leader with sharp blue eyes and a calm demeanor, stood at the head of the table. She looked around at the faces of the other leaders, seeing the same fury that burned within her. Earth had always been seen as the underdog in the galaxy, and now the Council's actions felt like the final straw. "This is an insult to everything we've worked for," President Carter began, her voice steady but laced with anger. "The Galactic Council thinks they can push us around, cut off our resources, and isolate us from the rest of the galaxy. They believe we're weak, that we'll bow down to their demands. But they've forgotten one thing: we are humans. We don't back down." Around the table, heads nodded in agreement. The leaders of Earth had different backgrounds, different cultures, and even different languages. But in that moment, they were united. They all knew that the Council's sanctions were not just an attack on their planet's economy or resources. It was an attack on their pride, on their very identity. "How dare they try to control us?" shouted General Okoye, a tall, muscular man with a booming voice. He was the commander of Earth's military forces, and he had seen his fair share of battles. "We've fought wars on this planet for centuries. We've survived every disaster thrown at us, and now they think we'll just roll over and accept this? I say we fight back." The room erupted in agreement. The idea of fighting back against the Galactic Council was dangerous, almost unthinkable. The Council was the most powerful force in the galaxy, controlling countless star systems and commanding vast fleets of warships. But the leaders of Earth were not thinking about the odds. They were thinking about their people, their planet, and their future. "We have the technology," said Dr. Elena Vasquez, a brilliant scientist known for her work in advanced weaponry. Her eyes gleamed with determination. "We've been developing new weapons, new defenses. The Council thinks they've cornered us, but they have no idea what we're capable of." President Carter nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. Earth had always been resourceful, always found a way to survive. But this wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about sending a message. The Galactic Council needed to know that Earth would not be bullied. "We will not let them isolate us," President Carter said firmly. "We will not let them weaken us. We will respond, and we will respond with strength. But we must be smart about this. We need a plan that not only defends our planet, but also shows the galaxy that we are a force to be reckoned with." The room fell silent as the leaders considered their options. They knew that a direct confrontation with the Council could be disastrous, but they also knew that doing nothing was not an option. Earth's spirit was too strong, its people too proud, to simply accept the Council's sanctions without a fight. "We have allies," suggested Ambassador Lee, a seasoned diplomat who had spent years building relationships with other planets. "There are those in the galaxy who are not happy with the Council's rule. If we can reach out to them, we might find support. We don't have to face this alone." The idea of seeking allies resonated with the group. Earth had always been seen as a newcomer in the galactic community, but that didn't mean they were without friends. There were other planets, other species. "But we must be cautious," warned Prime Minister Singh, a wise and careful leader. "The Council will be watching us closely. Any sign of rebellion could bring their full force down upon us. We need to strike in a way that catches them off guard, something they won't expect." As the leaders continued to discuss their strategy, a plan began to take shape. It would involve a combination of military might, technological innovation, and diplomatic outreach. Earth would fight back, but they would do it on their terms, using their strengths and playing to their unique advantages. By the end of the meeting, the room was filled with a renewed sense of purpose. The anger that had ignited within them had been channeled into action. They knew the road ahead would be difficult, that the fight against the Galactic Council would be long and hard. But they also knew that they could not afford to lose. The future of their planet, the future of humanity, depended on their success. As they left the bunker, each leader carried with them the weight of their responsibility, but also the fire of determination. Earth would not bow down to the Galactic Council. They would fight with every ounce of strength they had, and in the end, they would show the galaxy what it truly meant to be human. The decision to fight back against the Galactic Council had been made, but now came the hardest part, creating a plan that would not only protect Earth but also send a clear message to the rest of the galaxy. The leaders of Earth knew that they were facing a powerful enemy, one that had crushed countless other planets under its rule. But they also knew that humans had a unique way of turning impossible odds into victories. President Eleanor Carter called another meeting in the underground bunker. This time, only the top military minds, scientists, and diplomats were present. The room was smaller but still filled with the same tension and determination. They had one goal: to create a strategy that would ensure Earth's survival and make the Galactic Council regret their decision to challenge humanity. General Okoye, the commander of Earth's military forces, was the first to speak. He stood tall, his posture rigid, his face stern. "We need to strike where they least expect it," he said, his voice deep and commanding. "The Galactic Council is arrogant. They believe we're no threat. That's their weakness, and we must exploit it." The room was silent as everyone considered his words. The Council's arrogance could indeed be their downfall. They had underestimated Earth, and now it was time to make them pay for that mistake. "But we can't just attack them head-on," said Dr. Elena Vasquez, the brilliant scientist who had been working on Earth's most advanced technologies. "Their fleets are massive and their defenses are nearly impenetrable. We need to think outside the box, use our creativity and intelligence to outsmart them." President Carter nodded in agreement. She knew that Earth's greatest strength was its people, their ability to innovate, to adapt, and to turn even the worst situations to their advantage. "We need a plan that combines both military strength and technological innovation," she said, "something they won't see coming." Dr. Vasquez leaned forward, her eyes bright with ideas. "What if we use our newest technology, the quantum disruptor? It's still in the experimental stage, but it has the potential to disable entire fleets without causing any physical damage. We could send a message that we're not to be underestimated without starting an all-out war." The quantum disruptor was a risky option. It was an experimental weapon that could potentially disrupt the energy systems of enemy ships, rendering them powerless. But it had never been tested on a large scale, and there was no guarantee it would work as intended. General Okoye considered the idea carefully. "It's risky," he said, "but it could work. If we can disable their fleet even for a short time, it would give us the upper hand. We could negotiate from a position of strength instead of weakness." Ambassador Lee, the seasoned diplomat, raised a hand. "We should also reach out to potential allies," he suggested. "There are other planets that have suffered under the Council's rule. If we can form a coalition, we won't have to fight alone." The idea of forming a coalition resonated with the group. Earth might be small, but with the right allies, they could become a formidable force. There were many planets in the galaxy that had been oppressed by the Council, and they might be willing to join Earth in a fight for freedom. President Carter stood up, her expression firm and resolute. "We will use the quantum disruptor to send a clear message to the Council," she declared. "But we will also work to build alliances. This fight isn't just about Earth, it's about the future of the galaxy. If we can unite others who have been wronged by the Council, we can turn the tide in our favor." The plan was starting to take shape, but there were still many details to work out. The quantum disruptor would need to be tested, and they would have to choose the right moment to use it. They also needed to decide which planets to approach for alliances and how to convince them to join Earth's cause. "We should start with the Zoltarans," Ambassador Lee suggested. "They've been oppressed by the Council for years, forced to give up their resources and submit to unfair trade agreements. They're powerful and technologically advanced, and they've always been sympathetic to Earth's struggles." Dr. Vasquez agreed. "If we can get the Zoltarans on our side, it would be a huge win. Their technology is some of the best in the galaxy, and their support would make a big difference." General Okoye added, "We should also approach the Tavarians. They're fierce warriors and have a strong sense of honor. If we can show them that our cause is just, they might be willing to fight alongside us. The next few hours were spent discussing the finer details of the plan. They would send a covert team to the Zoltaran homeworld to begin negotiations, while another team would reach out to the Tavarians. Meanwhile, Dr. Vasquez and her team would work around the clock to perfect the quantum disruptor, making sure it was ready for use. As the meeting came to a close, President Carter felt a sense of hope. The plan was risky, but it was bold and innovative, just like humanity itself. They were not going to back down, they were going to fight, and they were going to win. "We will not be intimidated," she said, her voice filled with determination. "The Galactic Council thinks they can control us, but they've underestimated the power of the human spirit. We will stand our ground, and we will show them what it means to be human." As the leaders left the bunker, each one was filled with a renewed sense of purpose. The plan was in motion, and soon the Galactic Council would realize that they had made a grave mistake. Earth was not just another planet to be controlled, it was a force to be reckoned with, and it was ready to fight back. The time had come for Earth to make its move. The plan to fight back against the Galactic Council had been carefully crafted, and now it was time to put it into action. The leaders of Earth knew that their success depended on the element of surprise. If they could catch the Council off guard, they might have a chance to turn the tide in their favor. In a hidden military base deep in the Amazon rainforest, the final preparations were being made. The quantum disruptor, Earth's secret weapon, had been fully tested and was now ready for deployment. The device was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, a weapon that could disable an entire fleet without firing a single shot. It worked by disrupting the energy fields that powered starships, leaving them dead in space. General Okoye, the commander of Earth's military forces, stood in the control room, overseeing the final checks. His face was calm, but his mind was racing with thoughts of what was to come. This attack would either mark the beginning of Earth's victory or its downfall. "Is the quantum disruptor ready?" General Okoye asked, his voice steady. "Yes, sir," replied Dr. Elena Vasquez, the scientist responsible for developing the weapon. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a mind like a steel trap. "We've run all the tests. It's working perfectly. We're ready to go." General Okoye nodded. He knew that everything depended on this moment. If the disruptor failed, they would lose their one advantage. But if it succeeded, they could cripple the Council's fleet and force them to negotiate on Earth's terms. "Good," General Okoye said. "Let's get ready to launch." The plan was simple but daring. Earth's fleet, consisting of their most advanced warships, would head toward the Galactic Council's main fleet, which was stationed near the planet Tryon. The Council's ships were powerful and heavily armed, but they had no idea that Earth was coming. The plan was to get close enough to the Council's fleet to deploy the quantum disruptor and then watch as their ships were rendered useless. As the fleet prepared to launch, President Eleanor Carter addressed the crew via a secure video link. Her face appeared on screens throughout the base, her voice calm and reassuring. "Today is a turning point in our history," President Carter said. "We are about to face a great challenge, but I have faith in each and every one of you. You are the best of humanity, and today you will show the galaxy what we're made of. Remember, we fight not just for ourselves, but for the future of our planet and our people. Good luck, and may we all return home safely." The crew members, from seasoned soldiers to young recruits, felt a surge of pride and determination. They knew the risks, but they were ready to face whatever came their way. This was their chance to prove that Earth was not a planet to be underestimated. The fleet launched into space, their ships cutting through the darkness like silent predators. The journey to Tryon was tense, every moment filled with the knowledge that they were heading into battle. But there was also a sense of anticipation. This was what they had trained for, what they had been waiting for. As they approached the Council's fleet, the mood shifted from anticipation to focus. The ships moved into formation, with the quantum disruptor hidden in the center, protected by the most heavily armored vessels. General Okoye watched the screens intently, his eyes never leaving the approaching fleet. "They haven't detected us yet," said Captain Harris, the fleet's tactical officer. His voice was calm, but there was a hint of excitement. "We're almost in position." "Good," General Okoye replied. "Prepare to deploy the disruptor on my command." The Galactic Council's fleet was massive, a formidable wall of metal and firepower. The ships were arranged in a tight formation, their weapons ready to unleash destruction at a moment's notice. But they had no idea that Earth's fleet was approaching, hidden by the latest stealth technology. "Target locked," Captain Harris reported. "We're in range." General Okoye took a deep breath. This was it, the moment of truth. "Deploy the quantum disruptor," he ordered. The command was given and the disruptor activated. A wave of energy rippled out from Earth's fleet, invisible but powerful. It spread across space, reaching out to the Council's ships. For a moment, nothing happened. And then, one by one, the lights on the Council's ships began to flicker and die. Engines powered down, weapon systems went offline, and the once mighty fleet was left floating helplessly in space. Cheers erupted throughout Earth's fleet. The quantum disruptor had worked perfectly, just as Dr. Vasquez had promised. The Council's ships were now sitting ducks, unable to move or fight back. "Status report," General Okoye demanded. "All enemy ships are disabled," Captain Harris replied, a broad grin on his face. "They're completely dead in the water." General Okoye allowed himself a small smile. They had done it. The Galactic Council, with all its power and arrogance, had been brought to its knees by a small planet that they had underestimated. But the victory was not yet complete. Now they needed to capitalize on their advantage. "Open a channel to the Council's flagship," General Okoye ordered. "It's time we had a little chat." The communication link was established, and the face of a shocked and furious Council Admiral appeared on the screen. "What have you done?" the Admiral demanded. "This is an act of war." "No, Admiral," General Okoye replied calmly. "This is Earth standing up for itself. Your fleet is disabled and we are in control. Now let's talk about ending this before more lives are lost." The Admiral glared at the screen, but he knew he was beaten. The Council had never faced anything like this before, and they were not prepared for the fight that Earth had brought to them. As the negotiations began, Earth's leaders knew that they had made history. The surprise attack had not only crippled the Council's fleet, but had also sent a powerful message to the galaxy. Earth was a force to be reckoned with, and they would not be pushed around. The fight was far from over, but for the first time, the people of Earth could see a glimmer of hope on the horizon. The Galactic Council's headquarters, located on the planet Zion, was a marvel of architecture, a massive, gleaming structure that symbolized the power and authority of the Council over the galaxy. But today, the halls of the Council were filled with fear and confusion. News of the surprise attack by Earth had spread like wildfire, and the shockwaves were being felt in every corner of the galaxy. Inside the Grand Chamber, the Council members were in disarray. The once confident leaders of the most powerful civilizations were now gripped by panic. The idea that a primitive planet like Earth could disable their mighty fleet was unthinkable, yet it had happened. The meeting that had been called to discuss the situation was quickly turning into chaos. "How could this happen?" shouted Vornak, a hulking figure from the warrior race known as the Dreth. His voice boomed through the chamber, filled with rage and disbelief. "Our fleet was supposed to be invincible. How did these humans manage to cripple it so easily?" "We underestimated them," replied Rena, a slender figure with sharp green eyes. She was the representative of the Althar, a species known for their intelligence and technological prowess. Rena was one of the few who had always cautioned against underestimating Earth, but her warnings had been ignored. "The humans are far more advanced than we realized. They have developed technology that we didn't anticipate, technology that could bring the galaxy to its knees," added Threx, a cold and calculating member of the Zetari, a species that prided itself on strategic thinking. "If they can do this to our fleet, what's stopping them from doing it to the rest of us?" The room fell into a tense silence as the implications of Threx's words sank in. The Council had always viewed Earth as a backwater planet, barely worth their attention. Now, they were faced with the reality that Earth was a serious threat, and they had no idea what else the humans were capable of. As the Council members argued and debated, High Chancellor Orlin, the leader of the Council, sat silently at the head of the table. He was an imposing figure with silver skin and deep black eyes that seemed to see everything. Orlan had always been a voice of reason in the council, but today even he felt the weight of the situation pressing down on him. Finally, Orlan spoke, his voice cutting through the noise. "Enough," he said firmly. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to him. "We cannot afford to let panic take over. We need to think clearly and act swiftly. The humans have demonstrated that they are not to be underestimated, but we are still the Galactic Council. We have the resources and the power to deal with this threat." "What do you propose, Chancellor?" asked Rena, her voice calm but laced with concern. Orlan leaned forward, his expression grave. "First, we need to understand exactly how the humans were able to disable our fleet. We must analyze the data from the battle and find any weaknesses in their technology that we can exploit. Second, we need to reinforce our defenses and prepare for the possibility of a full-scale conflict with Earth. And third, we must send a message to the humans, one that makes it clear that any further aggression will not be tolerated." "And what if they don't listen?" Vornak growled. "What if they continue to defy us?" "Then we will have no choice but to retaliate," Orlan replied, his voice cold and determined. "We will use every resource at our disposal to ensure that Earth understands its place in the galaxy." As the Chancellor spoke, a sense of determination began to replace the fear in the room. The council members were leaders of powerful civilizations, and they were not used to being challenged. The idea of Earth standing up to them was an affront that they could not ignore. But even as they plotted their response, there was an undercurrent of doubt. The humans had already proven that they were more dangerous than anyone had expected. What else were they hiding? And how far would they be willing to go to defend their planet? The Council's intelligence officers were quickly put to work, analyzing the data from the battle and trying to uncover the secrets of Earth's technology. But the more they uncovered, the more questions they had. The quantum disruptor was unlike anything they had ever seen, and there were rumors of other, even more powerful weapons that the humans might possess. As the hours passed, reports began to pour in from across the galaxy. Other planets were starting to take notice of Earth's bold move, and some were even beginning to question the Council's authority. There were whispers of rebellion, of planets that had long been oppressed by the Council, now seeing Earth as a symbol of resistance. This was the last thing the Council needed, a galaxy-wide uprising inspired by a tiny planet that they had dismissed as insignificant. Back in the Grand Chamber, the Council members continued to debate their next steps. Some argued for immediate military action, while others urged caution, fearing that a direct confrontation with Earth could lead to even greater losses. High Chancellor Orlan listened to the arguments, his mind racing with the possibilities. He knew that the situation was far more precarious than anyone was willing to admit. The Council's control over the galaxy was slipping, and if they didn't act decisively, they could lose everything. Finally, Orlan made his decision. "We will send a delegation to Earth," he announced. "They will deliver our demands and make it clear that the Council will not tolerate any further defiance. But we will also begin preparing for war. If the humans refuse to comply, we will be ready to strike." The room was silent as the Council members absorbed Orlan's words. They all knew what was at stake, and they all understood that the next few days would determine the fate of the galaxy. As the meeting adjourned, the Council members left the chamber, their minds filled with thoughts of the impending conflict. Panic had given way to determination, but beneath it all, there was a lingering fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of what Earth might do next, and fear that, for the first time in their history, the Galactic Council might be facing an enemy they could not defeat. The Galactic Council was reeling from the shock of Earth's surprise attack, and tensions across the galaxy were reaching a boiling point. As the Council's delegates prepared to meet with Earth's leaders, the people of Earth were not sitting idle. President Eleanor Carter and her team knew that now was the time to make a decisive statement to the galaxy. They had to show that Earth was not just a random planet that had struck back. They were a force to be reckoned with. In the heart of Earth's capital, a large crowd had gathered in front of the presidential palace. News of the attack and the ongoing negotiations with the Galactic Council had captured the attention of people around the world. There was a mix of anxiety and pride in the air as the citizens waited for their leaders to address them. Inside the presidential palace, President Carter was preparing for her speech. Her team had worked tirelessly to craft a message that would not only convey Earth's strength, but also its willingness to stand firm in the face of intimidation. The speech needed to be strong, clear, and inspiring. It needed to show that Earth was not just defending itself, but was also standing up for its principles. President Carter took a deep breath and reviewed her notes one last time. The weight of the moment was not lost on her. This was a defining moment for Earth, and her words would be broadcast across the galaxy. "Are we ready?" she asked her communications officer. "Yes, Madam President," the officer replied. "We're live in 3, 2, 1. The camera lights flashed on, and President Carter stepped up to the podium. The crowd outside cheered, their voices a roar of support and anticipation. She smiled, feeling the energy from the crowd, and began to speak. "Greetings to the citizens of Earth and to the galaxy," she began, her voice steady and clear. "Today we stand at a crossroads in our history. The Galactic Council, which has long held dominion over countless planets, has learned a hard lesson. Earth is not to be underestimated." The crowd erupted in applause, and President Carter paused to let the cheers subside. She could see the pride in the faces of the people gathered outside, and it gave her strength. "We have always believed in our ability to rise to any challenge," she continued. "When the Galactic Council chose to attack us, they underestimated our resolve and our readiness. We have shown that we are not just a small planet on the fringes of the galaxy. We are a powerful, determined force, capable of defending ourselves and standing up for what we believe in." The words were powerful, and President Carter could see the impact they were having. The message was not just for the Council, it was for every planet and species watching. "We know that our actions have stirred unrest and concern among many," she said. "But let me be clear, Earth does not seek conflict. We seek respect and understanding. We are ready to negotiate, to find a peaceful resolution to this situation. But we will not be cowed by threats or intimidation." The broadcast was being watched by millions across the galaxy, including the Council's delegates who were on their way to Earth. Inside the Council's flagship, the atmosphere was tense as the representatives watched the president's speech. "She's playing a dangerous game, Vornak," the Dreth warrior said, his voice filled with irritation. "She's challenging our authority directly." "It's more than a challenge, Rena," the Althar representative replied. "It's a statement. She's showing that Earth will not back down. We need to take this seriously." High Chancellor Orlin, who was watching the speech with a stern expression, nodded. "She's right. Earth has proven itself to be a formidable opponent. We must be cautious in our approach." Back on Earth, President Carter continued her speech, her tone resolute. "To the Galactic Council, we say this: we are ready to meet you, to discuss our differences, and to find a path forward. But we will do so on equal terms. We will not be dictated to. We are a planet with our own values and our own vision for the future. If you wish to negotiate, we expect to be treated with the respect we deserve." The crowd outside cheered again, their voices rising in a unified expression of support. President Carter could feel the energy of the people, and it bolstered her resolve. "To every planet and species watching," she concluded, "we stand as a symbol of resilience and courage. We show that even the smallest voice can make a difference, and that standing up for oneself is not only possible but necessary. We hope for peace, but we are prepared for anything. This is our message: Earth will not be silenced." As President Carter finished her speech, the crowd erupted into applause, their cheers echoing through the streets of the capital. The message had been delivered, and it was clear Earth was not backing down. The Galactic Council would have to decide how to respond, but one thing was certain: Earth had made its position known, and the galaxy was watching. In the Council's flagship, the delegates exchanged uneasy glances. The speech had been a powerful statement, and it was clear that the situation had escalated. They knew that their next steps would be crucial, and they needed to prepare for a more complex and potentially dangerous negotiation. As the sun set over Earth, the world watched and waited for the next chapter in this unfolding drama. The bold message had set the stage for a new era of interaction between Earth and the galaxy, and the coming days would determine whether peace or conflict would be the outcome. The days following President Eleanor Carter's bold message were tense and uncertain. Across the galaxy, every species and planet was watching closely to see how the Galactic Council would respond. Earth had made its position clear. They were ready to negotiate but would not be intimidated. The question now was whether the Council would relent or escalate the conflict. High Chancellor Orlan and the Council members were deep in deliberations aboard their flagship, the Excalibur. The Council's Grand Chamber, usually a place of confidence and authority, was now filled with a palpable sense of unease. The delegation tasked with negotiating with Earth had not yet arrived, and the Council's leaders were grappling with the implications of the President's speech. Orlan stood at the head of the table, his expression grave as he listened to the reports from his advisors. The message from Earth had sent shockwaves through the Council. The more they analyzed the data from the recent battle and the President's speech, the more they realized that Earth was not the weak, primitive world they had once considered. The humans have shown a level of determination and strength that we did not expect, Rena, the Althar representative, said. Their technology, their resolve, it's all far beyond what we anticipated. Indeed, Orlan replied. Their message was clear. They are not going to back down, and they are prepared to fight if necessary. We must consider our next move carefully. Vornak, the Dreth warrior, slammed his fist on the table. We cannot allow ourselves to be seen as weak. We have to show that the Council still holds power and authority. But at what cost? Threx, the Zatari strategist, countered. If we push too hard, we risk further escalation. The humans have already demonstrated their capacity for destruction. We cannot afford to underestimate them. The room fell into silence as the Council members considered Threx's words. The idea of backing down was anathema to many of them, but the reality of the situation was undeniable. Earth had proven itself to be a formidable opponent, and the risks of continuing the conflict were substantial. We must weigh the potential benefits against the costs, Orlan said, breaking the silence. If we continue to press Earth, we might provoke them into further actions that could endanger the stability of the entire galaxy. On the other hand, if we show weakness, we risk undermining our authority and encouraging other planets to challenge us. As the debate continued, the Council received a communication from Earth. The message was clear. They were ready to begin negotiations and were eager to resolve the situation peacefully. The offer was straightforward. Earth wanted a ceasefire and a formal discussion on how to move forward. Orlan read the message with a heavy heart. The Council had faced many challenges in its long history, but this was different. Earth was not just another rebellious planet. It was a symbol of something larger, a challenge to the very structure of their authority. After much deliberation, Orlan called for a vote. The Council members, their faces lined with worry, cast their votes on whether to accept Earth's offer and seek a peaceful resolution. The result was clear. A majority voted in favor of negotiating with Earth. The decision was met with a mixture of relief and disappointment. The Council had chosen to back down, at least for now. The Council's delegation, led by High Chancellor Orlan himself, was sent to Earth to begin the negotiations. The representatives from Earth were ready and waiting, eager to see what the Council would propose. When the delegates arrived on Earth, they were greeted with a mixture of curiosity and caution. The negotiations were held in a secure location away from the public eye. Both sides were determined to find a resolution, but the atmosphere was tense. President Carter and her team welcomed the Council's delegates with a firm but respectful demeanor. The negotiations began with a review of the recent events and the demands of both sides. Earth's primary goal was to ensure their safety and gain recognition as a respected member of the galactic community. The Council, on the other hand, wanted to restore their authority and prevent any further challenges to their rule. The discussions were complex and fraught with tension, but both sides were committed to finding a middle ground. As the days passed, progress was made. The Council agreed to a ceasefire and acknowledged Earth's right to defend itself. In return, Earth agreed to certain terms designed to reassure the Council that they would not act aggressively. Both sides also agreed to establish a formal channel for ongoing communication to prevent future misunderstandings. The final agreement was a carefully balanced compromise. The Council retained its authority, but Earth was recognized as a significant and respected player in the galaxy. The negotiations were a testament to the fact that even the most entrenched conflicts could be resolved through dialogue and mutual respect. When the agreement was announced, the reaction across the galaxy was mixed. Some saw it as a victory for Earth, while others viewed it as a loss for the Galactic Council. The reality was more complex. Both sides had made concessions, but the result was a new equilibrium that acknowledged the strength and resilience of Earth. For President Carter and the people of Earth, the negotiations were a triumph. They had faced a seemingly insurmountable challenge and emerged with their dignity and security intact. The Council had backed down, but Earth had gained something more valuable: respect and a place in the galactic community. As the delegates returned to their respective worlds, the galaxy began to adjust to this new reality. The events of the past weeks had shifted the balance of power, and the future was uncertain. But one thing was clear: Earth had proven that it was not to be underestimated, and the Galactic Council had learned a valuable lesson.